I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies. I can feel it calling in the air tonight. Oh, Lord. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local Regal cinema, and then we park and talk about it. Did we like it? Did we not like it? Should you see it in the theater? Should you wait for streaming? Hopefully we can answer all those burning questions you have about the movie we saw tonight, and you can make an educated decision. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and yes, welcome to another episode where we are going to talk about a movie. And tonight's edition, we'll be talking about the next installment in the Halloween franchise called Halloween Kills.
Kills!
Yes, that's right, guys. Michael Myers is back with all his band of merry people to kill. Yeah. And he does that. That's the summary of the movie.
Efficiently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we would be remiss to not give a little bit of backstory from the Halloween series itself. There's, 12 movies? 11?
This is the 12th or 11th?
The 12th movie.
But remember, only the original one counts at this point.
Right. So there's 12 movies. There's several reboots. There's other weird random things that happen in these movies. But really, all that you need to pay attention to is the one that came out in 1978, the one that came out in 2018.
Yes.
And this one. And I guess the next one that they've already announced.
It is not, it's not a secret. This will be a trilogy.
Yes. So, everything else is kind of thrown out the window. Jamie Lee Curtis is in the first one. She's in this one. She's in several other ones that we're just throwing out.
Throw out the window. Yeah.
But that's one main point of continuity that we need to explain. And I'll give you the general backstory of Michael Myers, who's the big bad guy in this movie. He killed his sister in 1960 something, and then escapes from a mental institution in the first movie and goes on a killing spree in his hometown. Flash forward to 2018, which is...
Well, he specifically hung up on one person, Laurie Strode, for some reason. Or maybe she just happened to be there and she kept escaping and he went after her. It's still kind of fuzzy on what's going on here.
Right. There is even within this movie some dispute over what his actual goals are. Is he tied to his childhood home? Is he tied to this Laurie Strode character, played by Jamie Lee Curtis? And
is it Strode or Strode?
Strode?
I don't know.
Could be Strode.
I can't remember it at this point.
Okay. Well, it's something that starts with
Laurie
an
S.
and ends with a D. Anyway, we don't know exactly why he's doing what he's doing, which is killing a lot of people. We do have the bit of trivia that Michael Myers' original mask, I don't know if it still is, but was a Captain Kirk mask.
Old William Shatner.
Yeah.
Well, here, I got another bit of trivia. If you're ready for it.
Yes, ready.
So, do you know who Jamie Lee Curtis's mom is?
No.
She is the woman from the famous scene in Psycho who gets knifed in the shower.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I just found that out this week.
Interesting. Well, all kinds of trivia flowing out for you. And it's fitting that William Shatner's mask is on Michael Myers because he just became the oldest person to ever go into space.
I don't think that's gonna. Yeah, and I don't think that's gonna be beaten.
No.
90 years old. I don't know how. How do you get medically cleared to do that as a 90-year-old person? They're like, oh yeah, this guy can handle the amount of G's he's gonna face by going out of the atmosphere.
Well, I guess he's cleared by Starfleet or whatever.
Yeah,
it happened. Anyway, back to this movie.
Bones checked him out. He said he was okay.
That's right. So there's no one famous in this movie except for Jamie Lee Curtis, and if you want to say Anthony Michael Hall is famous at this point, I guess.
I would argue there's one more guy in this movie that's famous. It's
all right.
The guy who plays the sheriff, Hawkins.
Okay.
He was Coach Yost from Remember the Titans.
Ah, gotcha.
Is where I always remember him from, but he's been in a ton of stuff. I just can't remember his name, and it's too late to look it up at this point.
Okay. Well, we'll go with that.
But presumably he'll probably be in the next one. So I got another chance to
Right.
to fix this wrong.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting police convention happening in our parking lot tonight.
Yeah, 3 cars deep at this point.
I thought they were going to come over and accost us for trespassing or loitering or something, or podcasting.
Highly illegal in these
Yeah.
parts.
But so far, so good. Right. So what's this movie all about? Well, it's a slasher horror movie where Michael Myers kills a bunch of people. But
Very true.
the premise is that right on the heels of Halloween 2018, this movie begins. So this movie is technically set in 2018
Yes.
because it happens right after the
Pre-pandemic.
The last one. That's
world.
right.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, no masks except for Halloween masks.
Oh.
And so the events of that movie kind of unfolded. There was like Michael Myers again was escaping from a mental institution.
Yes.
And in this case, his doctor was trying to free him and get him out in the wild so he could study him.
Yeah. I specifically wanted to get him to Laurie.
Right.
Because I guess he was fascinated by this whole thing.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening is the doctor was killed, of course.
Of course.
But sorry, I'm getting distracted by the police.
Yeah, they're
Some are
rolling out
exiting.
at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple people escape from this mental institution. There's one guy who appears again in this movie, and it doesn't go well for him because people think that he's Michael Myers. He's not. But Michael Myers is one of the escapees, and in the last movie, he gets taken to Laurie Strode or Laurie S.'s house, which is a fortified compound, and she's been training and building traps into her home to kill Michael Myers. And so at the end of the movie, they think they've got him, and this movie picks up right at the end of that. The house is burning to the ground because they lit it on fire with him trapped in it. And right at the beginning of the movie, you find out, well, that didn't kill Michael Myers.
Yeah.
The firemen are there to put out the fire, and Michael basically walks out of the flames fully intact and slaughters the entire fire department that has shown up there.
Yeah. Rough night for the fire department.
Rough night
in Haddonfield?
Haddonfield, something like that. In Illinois. H-Town in Illinois. So then there's some flashback scenes to the 1978 movie. There's also some reenactments of the 1978 movie, and you get a lot of the characters who escaped in the very first Halloween movie come back in this movie. Not played by the same actors, I don't think, in any case. But
I'm not sure about that.
yeah, it could be.
I remember reading that they did. They
did.
Brought back, but...
Well, maybe some of them. Anthony Michael Hall was not in the first
Correct.
movie.
Anthony Michael Hall was not in the first movie. That's very
So that Tommy was replaced.
true. Yes.
But there may have been other characters. But you've got the sheriff, you've got the deputy who ends up stopping the original killing of Michael Myers, although who knows if he would have really died or not. You got all kinds of people, babysitters, little kids from the first movie who are all grown up now.
Yes.
And eventually form a vigilante mob that goes around the town trying to find Michael Myers and kill Michael Myers. No one is successful in that. And eventually Laurie Strode ends up in the hospital based on the events of the first movie, Halloween 2018, the
Correct.
first in this trilogy.
Yes.
And she's not in good shape. She spends the movie in the hospital. She never leaves it. But her daughter and her granddaughter, both at different points, go after Michael Myers. And they end up, the the climax of the movie happens at the old Myers house, where Michael has come for unknown reasons, except maybe to look out the window where in the very room where he killed his sister in 1960, whatever. So the big climax happens there, happens in the house and out of the house. There's a mob that comes and presumably takes down Michael Myers. They also fail, and he comes out of his death pose and kills all of those people. So, who actually survives? Not very many people survive. Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Stroud.
Well, are we going to go down the list of people who survived? That's a little spoiler.
That's true.
Right?
I guess so. It's not a very long list.
No.
All right. I won't say any more. There's one more movie to go.
Yeah.
At least.
Hopefully, it's just one more movie.
Yeah. So that's the summary. And Todd.
Yeah, I would argue if you've seen a Halloween movie, then you know the premise of this movie.
Yes. But we're here to educate a little if you haven't seen a Halloween movie.
Correct.
You
yes.
have the flavor of what's going on now.
Well, and we talked about, it snuck up on us. We talked about watching the original and then the 2018 one to prepare us for this movie. And
yes.
The release date really snuck up on us because I was, in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, this will be released the week of Halloween, because why wouldn't you do that for a movie that's Halloween Kills? And I guess something might be, maybe something's coming out that weekend that they were like, oh, we can't compete.
Yeah, I don't know.
Seems like a lost opportunity to me.
Well, I'm sure it'll still be in theaters in Halloween. So
that's true.
If you're looking for a scary one.
Yeah, I guess maybe they're thinking, oh, well, people won't be at the theater on Halloween weekend, so.
Very true.
Anyway.
Well.
I'm going to stop interrupting you.
Yeah. You can stop interrupting me, but I'm just going to say, Todd, what did you think of this movie, Halloween Kills?
Well, okay, this movie's real dumb to me, but that doesn't mean it's really bad. Like, it's just, there's a couple of things I have a problem with. One is that I wish we had watched the original, but I feel like they changed the ending of the original movie with their flashback scenes, because I'm almost positive the original ending to Halloween from 1978 is that Michael Myers gets shot out of the window he's always staring in, falls to the ground, and everyone just presumes he's dead.
No, that is what happens.
Okay, yeah. And then the last shot is Dr. Loomis looking out the window and the body's gone.
Right.
They changed that completely in this movie, which is crazy to me. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they added stuff that maybe could have happened off camera in the first movie, and I thought all that was interesting. You're filling in gaps from different angles that maybe you never saw.
Right.
And stuff. But I was like, what the heck? Like, you just made this huge deal that Halloween, the first Halloween, is cemented. We're doing the rest of the movies, and then you're just going to do away with the original ending and change it because I just felt that was so lazy and dumb. And that set, like, when that scene happened, I was, like, immediately taken out of the movie. I was like, what the heck? The other big thing I have about this movie that made it real dumb to me is that the writing in this movie is really bad, in my opinion. And it's not just that. It's like the writing doesn't mesh with the story. And, you know, of course, with a slasher movie, you're going to have those, oh, what are you doing moments? You know, like, those are expected in slasher movies. You're expecting the people to do the wrong choice.
Right.
But a lot of times, the right choice is never talked about. And in this movie, the right choice of banding together and sticking together is seriously talked about every 5 minutes in this movie. It is like,
right.
Besides the fact that there's a killer out, it's like, stay together, never separate. You got to go into places with a group and stuff like that. And at every turn, someone's saying, stay here, I'm going in there.
Right.
Like, and for a typical slasher movie, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but the fact that they addressed it so heavily,
yeah,
I'm like, it's almost like one person started writing this movie and then someone else took over halfway through and was like, well, I'm not going to read the original half of the script, I'm just going to pick it up and finish it. It made it, like, just real stupid, in my opinion. Like, there's too many of those moments, there's too many of those, like, you know, you expect a couple of them, in a slasher movie. You know, it comes with the territory, and I know that. I was expecting that. But this happens every 10 minutes. Every 5 minutes, you get a person saying, we got to stick together. Every 10 minutes, you got someone breaking off from the group saying, stay here. I'm going to go check this out. I'm going to go check out this extremely scary situation by myself, even though we just talked about how we shouldn't separate. It just is real dumb. Like, and honestly, those two big points just really, really sank the movie for me. And honestly, the only reason it's probably going to get not such a bad rating for me is that the ending sucked me back in. Like, I was pretty much out of the movie. And then the wrap up of the end, while I think was a bad ending to a movie, like, I thought that was kind of stupid. Like, I don't like it when movies overtly end and say, hey, come back for the next one. Like, and it's just like, you got to do it in such a great manner. Like Empire Strikes Back has one of those endings, but there's something conclusive about that ending too. There's nothing conclusive about this ending. Like,
right.
There's no finish of the story. There was no finish of a part of the story. It just kind of cut out, and I hate that. It's so lazy to me. And but I mean, I have to say that I was completely taken out of this movie, and then the ending happened. The last kind of 20 minutes of this movie, I found myself getting kind of sucked back in, even though some more dumbness happened. We had another scene of someone saying, all right, we should all go in, and then someone being like, no, you stay here. Like, but also in that scene, I was like, this is how dumb this movie's gotten, that this adult man is about to go into this house looking for Michael, and he's got two teenagers in the car with him that he brought on this stupid mission. Like, it just was so hard to, like, so many things brought me out of this movie, and the ending could only do so much. Like, I said it doesn't make it a bad movie, but it for sure makes it not the best movie it could be. And yeah, I mean, I gotta say, like, I almost kind of feel like you could watch the 2018 version, you could skip to the last 20 minutes of this movie, and then you can watch the final third movie, which hopefully is conclusive and ends this whole thing, and we can just kind of put this to bed. But it's super disappointing because I thought the 2018 movie was pretty good. Like, I think we saw that before we were doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm not as big as a horror movie person as you are. But I agreed to go because I was like, oh, Matt really wants to see this. And I walked to the theater going like, wow, that's a pretty good return to this franchise, honestly. Like, I was like, that's pretty good. And I thought it could be its own, and you know, nothing's ever its own anymore in Hollywood, but it did have a pretty good definitive ending, in my opinion. But I'm not even upset they revisited it. Of course they're going to revisit it. But if you're going to revisit it and you're going to stretch it into a trilogy, make it good. Like, just doesn't feel like much effort was put into this movie.
Yeah.
You've got bad writing. You've got some pretty cheapy looking gore stuff at times. And I was like, the original 1978 movie had better graphics than this one. And yeah, I mean, now that I'm talking it all out loud, it's really like tanking what I'm gonna read. Now that I'm saying all this stuff outside, like now I'm saying it out loud. I mean, I felt this while I was watching it, but I was like, I got pretty high off the ending. But now that I'm going through the movie again, I was like, oh gosh, I think you can skip this movie. Honestly, I'm like, I mean, I'm gonna come back for the third one because I'm too heavily invested at this point, but there's really not that much good. Like, the only thing that was slightly interesting in this movie is that a subplot of this movie is what happens to a town in mass hysteria where there is a serial killer on the loose. Like, how does the town that has kind of suffered these tragedies, you know, how does it take its effect on a town, period? And like, I think you get a glimpse of that in this movie, and it is a subplot of these townspeople who are like, well, we got to take matters in our own hand. The cops keep failing and stuff like that. And like, you know, some stuff happens, and, you know, I'm not going to spoil it, but it doesn't go the way they want it to. And I thought that was slightly interesting. Like, I was like, okay, that's an interesting take, I guess. Like, I kind of was with it. But then it was like, every time we focused on that subplot, I'm like, let's get back to the business. Like, let's get back to why I came to this movie. Like,
right.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time I said skip this movie, but I'm going to say skip this movie. Like, I mean, I guess if you're a huge Halloween fan, you know, like take the gamble. I don't even know if John Carpenter's still alive. I think we've talked about this. He is alive, right?
He is alive.
Yeah. I can't imagine he's happy with this movie. Like, and a weird thing is, to my understanding of all the other movies they toss out the window, they're starting, like, I think this trilogy is going to try to hit on all elements of those movies. Like, and I can't really go into detail about it because it'll be a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm going to save it for the next movie. But I think, from my understanding of all the sequels that got tossed out the window, they're moving in a direction with these movies that I think will encompass all of it. Like,
interesting.
But that doesn't make it a good movie. And, yeah, I say skip it, wait, or read about the last 20 minutes because I think that's all you really need. You know, read who survived, read what the ending is, and then you're pretty much ready for the third movie. Because outside of that, not a whole lot happens in this movie, like, besides just random who cares killing. Which, I mean, yes, a slasher movie, there's going to be a part of that, but this movie was a mess. I think it wanted to be too much. Maybe they were trying to fit everything into this movie to end it all, and then they were like, well, we got to squeak this out to another movie because it's too much for us or whatever. I don't know. I was pretty disappointed. I said it. I'm pretty disappointed. Like, 2018, you know, got me kind of, I was never the biggest Halloween fan, but I was like, this is good. Like, I was like, I like this. This is a return to form for this franchise. You know, good on you, Danny McBride and the people who lobbied to bring this franchise back. But golly, this is a bad follow-up. So I'm gonna end it there.
Okay.
I don't even think acting is worth talking about, honestly. Like, it's not that it was bad, it just was kind of there. Like, I don't think anyone really blew it out of the park. And there's these monologues in this movie that just, like, go on forever that don't... At times, they're just spitting out nonsense in the monologue. And I'm just like... whoever was the writer of this movie needs to be fired. That's my take on it.
I think the director of the movie was one of the writers.
He definitely was. Yeah. Anyway, skip it. Read about it. Get ready for the next film if you want. I guess if you're a huge Halloween fan, then go see it for yourself and make your own opinion. But if you're, like, on the fence about it, let me push you to one side of the fence, which is don't waste money on this movie. Matt, what do you think?
Well, I'll form my own opinion and share that now. So I am going to talk about the acting. I thought the acting was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I thought the writing was pretty bad. I thought that even the story was a little convoluted as far as what Michael Myers' motivations are. I guess maybe they were trying to go for, we don't really know what his motivations are, but here are a couple of options, and maybe we'll explore that in the third movie, like what's driving him to do all this stuff. And you said it too, that the gory effects were not good. Yeah. They were like 1970s versions of, like, we can do better here in the 2000s than this.
Well, even like I said, the 1978 version, from what I remember, had better. Like, there's a scene in this movie where someone removes a knife from someone, and there's like a big old puddle of CGI blood just starts falling, but it looks so fake. And I was like, oh man, like, jeez.
Yeah. So, what is good about this movie? There's a couple things. I thought it was interesting / funny that they included virtually every character who survives the first movie in this movie. I ran down some of the people, but every person was there. Yeah. And had their inevitable run-in with Michael in one way or another. But I thought that was interesting. You got a little backstory. You got a little... one of the characters tells a story. Tommy, actually, tells a story about the mythos of Michael Myers. And then, of course, he shows up and terrorizes the town right after the story happens. But I thought that was kind of cool. And the music was good. I liked the music in this. Certainly there was plenty of the Halloween theme song, which is the haunting piano melody. But something that I really like in horror movies, original Candyman comes to mind, is sort of like some operatic singing in the background, like you're and there's a bunch of that in this movie too, which I was like, yeah, give me some more of that.
Yeah.
It makes it spooky for some reason. But that's about it for like good things. Yeah, you mentioned the subplot too about this, like what happens when mob rules a town. And when you were talking about that, it made me think of like what it was like in this area when that the DC sniper.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And it was like, it was kind of crazy in this area with people being like, oh yeah, I went to the gas station yesterday and I used the gas pump, but I hid behind my car or whatever. Like everyone was keeping their eyes out for white vans and other things.
Sorry for anyone who owned a white van in that time.
Yeah. Turned out white vans had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Good old Caprice classic. Anyway, but I agree, Todd. This isn't a great movie. If you're a Halloween fan, you're going to see it. And you should. You owe it to yourself to see it. If you're not a Halloween fan, but you like slasher movies, okay, you can see it. If you are anyone else, skip it.
Yeah.
Because there's no redeeming value here. If you don't have any of the backstory going in of any of the Halloween myth, you're going to be a little bit lost. And they do try and catch you up a little bit, but you're not going to enjoy as much as someone who has that. So
yeah, I mean, I would say like if you're hell bent on seeing this movie, then I would definitely watch the original '78, then the 2018, then this movie.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll not completely change my opinion, but if Halloween, I think the next one is called Halloween Ends. If that comes out and it's a banger, and I'm like, okay, you probably need to see all 4 movies to get the whole grasp of this big concept, maybe that would be the only way I'd return to this and be like, okay, not because it's good, but because it feeds the bigger story, you should probably see this movie.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, Matt.
Yes.
How many pillowcases full of bricks would you give this movie? Which was absolutely one of the most ridiculous things I saw in the movie, of like someone seeing their friends attacked and then stops to empty a bag of candy, empties the candy on the ground, and then proceeds to take a long time filling it with bricks as the rest of the people are killed by the time they get back. I was like, oh my gosh. You and your bricks, lady.
Yes.
Obviously, 5 being the best, because then you got plenty of bags of bricks hanging around to swing at your wildest dreams and maybe kill Michael Myers. 0 being the worst, because then you got no bags of bricks and you got no defense.
That's right.
So
you got a bag of air.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it.
I mean, I guess maybe if you didn't empty the candy, you could swing that around a little bit, but I don't think that's going to have the effect that you want.
You're better off just eating some candy and waiting for Michael Myers to kill you.
Might as well go out on a high note with some sweets.
Oh, well, with that rating scale, I'm going to go with a 1.7 bags of bricks out of 5. Some interesting things, like I said, to me personally, as like someone who likes this type of movie, but really not enough to carry the movie. And we mentioned the dumbness and the bad acting and the bad writing really overwhelm any good thing that could come from this. So 1.7 bags of bricks.
Nice. Taking in everything that I've said, how angry I am after the movie, these are all factors that go
really
into my
worked
rating.
up, Todd.
I did get worked up. I'm at like a 1.3. This is not a good movie. And I mean, I even feel like if it wasn't for the ending that kind of lured part of me back into it to at least go, well, I gotta see the next one because I want to know how this ends.
Right.
It would be well below a 1 probably.
Okay.
There's not many redeeming factors, of this movie, so that's where I'm at.
There you have it. Well, before we wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, Todd, I'd like to wish you a happy anniversary of our podcast, because today is the 2nd anniversary of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, publishing our first podcast.
To the day?
To the day.
Wow.
Yeah, we published the Joker review on the 14th of October, 2019.
2019. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So
Sweet.
Yeah.
And we're up to 100. This will be 136?
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got some that are still waiting to be published, so...
Yes. Yeah.
But if we publish this, our next movie will be our 136th
Yes.
movie.
Oh, a couple other things to wrap up. We haven't mentioned this in a while, but to our friend Ed, there is a lot of head trauma. Like, a lot of head trauma. The head is specifically targeted in this movie.
Yeah.
A lot in most kills. I would say most kills involve some form of bashing to a head.
Yeah.
So,
And the bag of bricks hits Michael Myers in the head. Doesn't kill him or have any real effect.
yeah, it
but
has very, very little effect, honestly. And then, what was I going to say? Yes, in case anyone's interested, we're certain, I don't know when it'll be done, but we're working on a master spreadsheet of our ratings.
That's right.
For the movies, specifically what we rated it, and then also what the rating system was for that specific movie, so
Right.
that maybe that'll help you as a reference guide go through, since we now have like 100 and something podcasts to go through,
Yep.
to help you zero in on a movie, or maybe help you be like, is this worth listening to? Or, honestly, if you're like, I just want to hear the rating, but I don't want to hear the whole episode, I guess you could do that too.
Yep.
That doesn't benefit us in any way. So if you're going to do that, well, that kind of stinks, but we're still going to do it. So
Yeah. We are. It'll be fully sortable. You'll be able to sort by date, by duration, length of the podcast, by ratings for me or Todd, and our joint rating. And you'll also be able to sort by the rating scale. So in this case, bag of bricks.
yes.
So yeah, that'll take a while to generate. We've got the list of movies generated in there with the durations and all that. But going back and actually listening to the podcast to pull out the ratings, that's what's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But
So be patient, but it's coming.
but be excited,
oh, yes.
because it's a glorious spreadsheet.
Yeah. And please don't use the spreadsheet just to not listen to our podcast. At least listen to it. You don't have to, if you got all your information, just put it on in the background. Let us get at least credit for it. You don't have to listen to it.
Oh, and each title of the movie, will be a link in the spreadsheet to the actual podcast episode.
Ooh,
So if you're
fancy.
looking at the spreadsheet and you're like, oh, I really want to hear Matt and Todd's review of the Joker. Hey, it's only 5 minutes and 5 seconds.
Yeah, I was saying, it's a pretty
Click.
short one.
You can do it. So,
It's hard. It's weird to think that we started at 5 minutes and now we're like into over 25 minutes for
Yes.
each episode.
yes, we have grown in our content creation skills for
Yeah.
sure.
And I think our banter is off the charts.
Yes. Well, now we'll wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed Halloween Kills, the latest Halloween movie, and we gave it an average rating of 1.5 bags of bricks out of 5.
That's not enough. Well, pillowcases of bricks. That's not enough pillowcases
Noted.
of bricks, I don't
Noted.
think, to stop anyone, really.
Right. Well, I don't know. If anyone hit me with a pillowcase of bricks, it would stop me. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, yeah, if someone cold cocked you and you didn't see it, but
Yeah.
I mean, if like you 10 paces apart, I feel like I could probably
Do something about it.
outmaneuver a bag of a pillowcase of bricks.
Oh, but you got that extra half pillowcase, Todd.
Ooh, yeah, you don't.
That
know.
could
Yeah,
get you.
It's true.
All right.
It's
Well.
the end.
1.5 pillowcases of bricks. Not a good entry into the Halloween saga. But thank you for listening to this podcast.
And no previews.
There were no previews to this
Weird.
movie. Very strange.
Everything started off on the wrong foot tonight.
Yes. But please keep listening to our podcast. We'll keep making them. And we'll see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.